Wyndham Clark just won his second US Open. Wire to wire, nobody came close. But the moment that trophy was lifted, half the golf world wasn't talking about the victory. They were talking about 11 seconds of footage from the 17th hole on Saturday. A drop, a placed ball, a perfect lie that came from nowhere. The USGA had an official standing right there, watching every second of it. They cleared it, they stood by it, and they have not opened a single formal review since. Now, the question isn't just whether Clark broke a rule. The question is why the governing body of this sport appears completely unmoved, while the people inside the ropes, the analysts, the insiders, the fans who know this game better than anyone, are anything but. And here's what makes this bigger than one drop on one hole. This is not Clark's first time here. There's a pattern. And once you understand that pattern fully, the USGA's silence stops looking like confidence. Personally, I think the governing body owes the golf world a real explanation. Do you agree? Drop your thoughts below. And if you want the full story without missing a single detail, hit subscribe, because we are just getting started. That pattern didn't begin at Shinnecock, it started months earlier at Bay Hill, and what happened there is the only way to understand why Saturday exploded the way it did. Round 3, Saturday afternoon, Shinnecock Hills. Clark's tee shot on the par 3 17th doesn't go anywhere near where it needs to. The ball flies hard left, finds the fescue, and ends up beside a TV camera stand. Free relief granted. Nobody argued that part. What happened during that relief? The specific sequence of movements Clark made before, during, and after that drop is what stopped the golf world cold. Footage of those 11 seconds spread faster than anything else from that entire championship weekend. Not the final putt, not the trophy lift. 11 seconds from a third-round par 3, and by Saturday night it had been watched, paused, rewound, and screenshotted by hundreds of thousands of people with the same reaction. Something looked wrong. A USGA official was standing right there, watching every movement in real time. That official said nothing. No flag, no penalty, no review requested. Clark saved par. He went on to win by one shot over Sam Burns. But here is what did not disappear with the final putt. The questions. Specific, pointed, uncomfortable questions about what exactly Clark did in those 11 seconds. Questions the USGA has not addressed publicly since the moment their official cleared it on site. Those questions are louder now than they were on Saturday. Winning amplifies everything around it, not silence it. What makes those questions impossible to dismiss isn't just the footage, it's everything that came before it. And the story starts at Bay Hill. 2 separate incidents, same tournament, back-to-back years at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. The first one was caught on camera and spread fast. Clark appeared to pat down the grass directly behind his ball before playing his shot. In golf, deliberately improving the area behind your ball before a stroke is explicitly against the rules. The footage looked deliberate. The golf world noticed immediately. Clark was not penalized. Officials reviewed the footage, considered the camera angle, and cleared him. But in a sport where reputation travels faster than any ruling, cleared is never the same as forgotten. The second Bay Hill incident landed differently. Quieter at first, then significantly louder once people started paying close attention. Clark received a free drop in the middle of the fairway after his ball appeared to embed in a pitch mark. A drop in the fairway sounds routine, except a notable portion of the watching golf world was not convinced that pitch mark actually belonged to Clark's ball. No penalty. Ruling stood. 2 incidents, 2 clearings, 1 player, 1 tournament, and a growing number of people inside the sport, adding those moments quietly to a list they were keeping in the back of their minds. Clark addressed it publicly before the Players' Championship. He said he only found out about the controversy after the round. He said he would be more conscious of how things looked on camera going forward. Then he added something that reframed everything before and after it. He said he had been doing what he did for years, and nobody had ever called him out on it before. That sentence didn't close the conversation. It ripped it wide open, because now the question wasn't about Bay Hill anymore. It was about every tournament before it, and every one after. Then came Oakmont, the 2025 US Open, a completely different kind of moment, but one that burned into the memory of everyone watching and made sure Clark's name would carry weight into every major that followed. Clark missed the cut. Frustration took over. He kicked the front panels of 2 lockers in the Oakmont clubhouse, lockers that were 121 years old, part of the history of one of the most respected golf clubs in the world. The reaction was immediate. A prominent USGA official, upon hearing what happened, reportedly said he would ban Clark from the following year's Open. Oakmont's board acted fast. Clark was formally banned from the property until he repaid the damages, made a charitable contribution, and completed an anger management program. He did all of it. He apologized multiple times. He cleared every hurdle placed in front of him, and by the time Shinnecock arrived, he had technically settled every account. Reputations, though, do not reset on a schedule. The Shinnecock crowd made that painfully clear from the very first hole on Sunday. Fans shouted for his ball to find the bunker on tee shots. Cheers broke out when he missed putts. People were physically removed from the grounds for comments directed at him mid-swing. Scotty Scheffler, playing alongside the chaos, said afterward that New York crowds were tough, and that was an understatement. Brandel Chambly, watching from the broadcast desk, said it was the worst treatment he had ever seen an American player receive on American soil. He placed it alongside Colin Montgomery at the 1999 Ryder Cup and said what happened at Shinnecock was worse. Clark walked off the 18th green as a 2-time US Open champion and acknowledged it directly. Some of it, he said, was self-deserved. He said he kind of brought it on himself. He won the trophy. He said the right things, but what he couldn't control was already in motion. Because the golf world wasn't just angry at Clark. They were angry at the people who cleared him. Here is where this story shifts into something the golf world has not stopped talking about since Sunday evening. The crowd hostility at Shinnecock didn't exist in isolation. It was the visible surface of something deeper, a frustration that had been building through Bay Hill, through Oakmont, through every moment where Clark found himself cleared by officials, while a significant portion of the sport felt something wasn't sitting right. And that frustration, by Saturday night, had a new focal point. Not just Clark, the USGA. Because here is what people started asking, once the footage from the 17th hole began circulating. Where exactly does the governing body's responsibility end? A rules official standing 3 feet away in real time. Is that sufficient oversight for a moment this consequential, in a major championship, with millions of people watching? The USGA's answer, delivered through their silence, appears to be yes, and that answer has not gone down well. Consider the position the golf world finds itself in. Clark has now been cleared in connection with multiple rules-related moments across multiple tournaments. Each individual clearing is defensible. Each ruling, examined in isolation, has a logical explanation rooted in the written rule. But golf has never operated purely on the written rule. The sport carries something alongside the rulebook, a standard of conduct, an expectation of how the game is meant to be played that goes beyond what any official can adjudicate in real time from 3 feet away. When that standard feels like it is being tested repeatedly by the same player, and the governing body's consistent response is to clear and move on without public acknowledgement of why the growing concern is misplaced, that is when the frustration stops being about any single incident and becomes about trust. Trust in the officials, trust in the process, trust that the people running the sport are willing to examine their own decisions when the evidence on screen seems to tell a different story than the ruling on the ground. That trust question is exactly what exploded after Saturday. And now we get to the part of this story that the golf world has been demanding answers to since the footage first appeared. What Clark actually did in those 11 seconds, and why the USGA stands firmly behind every second of it. Before dropping, Clark reached down and removed loose grass from the ground in the relief area. Under the rules, that is completely permitted. Loose impediments can be moved anywhere on the course without penalty. That part is clean by the letter of the law. He then dropped the ball from knee height. It rolled back into the camera stand. He dropped again. Same result. The ball returned to the base of the obstruction twice. At that point, the rule is clear. When a dropped ball rolls back into an obstruction twice consecutively, the player may place it, manually position it within the relief zone rather than drop again. Clark placed it. The lie that resulted was noticeably better than what a blind drop into heavy fescue beside a camera stand would typically produce. 2 specific accusations emerged from the footage immediately. First, the grass clearing. Fans argued that removing loose material from the ground before the drop gave Clark a cleaner, more predictable surface to work with, which influenced where the ball settled after placement. The rule permits moving loose impediments, What it cannot account for is whether clearing that material in that specific way, in that specific location, shaped the outcome of a drop that was always going to end in placement. Second, the drop height. Multiple viewers examining the footage frame by frame raised the question of whether the ball was released from knee height or whether Clark's hand lowered toward the shin before release, making the rollback into the obstruction more controllable and therefore more predictable. The Mirror examined the footage and concluded the camera angle was misleading, that Clark moved the ball outward rather than downward to avoid it landing on his foot. That explanation addressed the optics. It did not fully address the doubt. A USGA official watched every movement in real time and intervened at no point. The governing body has not issued any statement suggesting they revisited the footage after the round, or that the volume of public concern prompted any internal review of the ruling. That is the refusal the golf world is reacting to, not a formal complaint rejected, not an appeal denied through a documented process, a governing body that made a live call and has treated that call as final, regardless of how many millions of people have since watched the same 11 seconds and arrived at a different conclusion. Clark's response to the cheating accusations was measured. He acknowledged he needs to be more careful about how his actions appear on camera. He said he has been performing certain habits for years across hundreds of rounds without anyone raising a flag. He said he would be more aware going forward, not necessarily that he would change what he does, but that he would be more conscious of how it looks. For a portion of the golf world, that response was honest and reasonable. For another portion, it confirmed exactly what they were afraid of. The USGA, for their part, has said nothing beyond the live ruling made at the 17th hole on Saturday afternoon. No clarification, no acknowledgement of the public concern, no statement explaining why the official's real-time clearance is considered sufficient given the scale of the footage-based scrutiny that followed. That silence is a choice, and choices made by governing bodies in moments like this define how a sport is perceived for years after the controversy fades. Clark said after the final round he hoped the second U.S. Open trophy would close the door on this chapter, that surviving Shinnecock, under the most hostile gallery of his career, with everything following him from Bay Hill and Oakmont, proved something definitive about who he is as a competitor. He drained a 24-foot downhill putt on the 16th hole with the lead down to 1 over Burns, and the crowd that had spent 4 days trying to knock him down had no choice but to clap. That moment was real. That resilience was undeniable. But resilience on the course does not answer what the golf world is asking of it. 2 U.S. Open trophies do not rewrite the footage from the 17th hole. Winning does not instruct the USGA to explain its process to a fan base demanding transparency. The governing body of this sport wrote the rules Clark played by. Their official cleared every movement he made. They stand behind that ruling completely. Whether that is enough, whether the golf world accepts it, whether the trust that has been tested across Bay Hill and Oakmont and Shinnecock can be rebuilt, is a question no trophy ceremony answers. The next time Clark steps onto a course, the cameras will find him faster than before. Officials will watch more closely. The golf world will be looking for the next 11 seconds, and the USGA will be standing right beside him in every frame, whether they want to be or not. So here is the question I want you to answer. Was that drop clean, or did the USGA look the other way when it mattered most? Tell me exactly what you think in the comments. I read every single one, and if this kind of breakdown is what you come here for, subscribe right now, because the next major storyline is already developing and you do not want to be last to know.